So now I'm actually going to pass it over for our safari to the strategic objectives team. And we're really honored here to have Kruger Products, the maker of Canada's leading tissue brands, Cashmere, Scotties, Sponge Towels, and Strategic Objectives, which is Canada's most award-winning PR agency. Joining us today is Susan Urban, Chief Marketing Officer at Kruger Products, and Deborah Weinstein and Amanda Chouinard of Strategic Objectives, all here in my hometown of Toronto. This expert team of communicators will show how being quick to innovate helped Kruger boldly face challenges created by the pandemic. And I think you may remember that COVID-19 made paper products very big news this year all around the world. Kruger and its communications team has turned this potentially negative spotlight into a story of resilience, creativity, and generosity. So I will pass it over to you guys. You guys are in great hands, and they have some fantastic examples to share.
And Shelby, can you just opt in for screen sharing so that I can put my slides up?
Absolutely. Gotcha in now.
Thank you.
No worries.
I just wanted to say hi and thanks everyone for joining our session today. As Shelby said, 2020 has been quite the year for Canadian brands and businesses and businesses all around the world as we adapt to the new normal. You know, it's been quite the year for me to join Kruger Products. I joined in January and transitioned with the outgoing retiring CMO for 2 months after, 20 years in the industry and the last 15 as a senior director at PepsiCo, working Canada, the US, and global in a global world on both the beverage and foods businesses. So yeah, after joining Kruger, after a long career at Pepsi, as you know, paper products started to really fly off the shelves at the end of February. So it was really quite the time to step into a role when, everything had turned upside down and we really needed to shift our campaigns. And as we were planning for 2021, had to rewrite kind of the boat for 2020. So today we're going to share a little bit of the 4 new campaigns that we came up with this year and how the pandemic really forced us to take 4 different approaches to reach our consumers. In one case, we created something completely new with the CSR program at the tip of the pandemic called Rolling It Forwards, which was really developed to address the immediate needs for Canadians. The second example we had to make was a judgment call on whether to forge ahead with new creative with a master brand approach in advertising in light of the health and safety concerns and evolving protocols. The third case study we'll talk about is how we had to reimagine our Cashmere collection, 17th year in running, a world-renowned PR program that we needed to pivot on. And then finally, the last is a campaign example in terms of our partnership with the NHL and how Kruger is now making a difference in the lives of Canadians in the financial aftermath of COVID. Despite the diverse programs and our challenging reality, our activities all laddered up to Kruger's mission, which is to make everyday lives more comfortable. That's a tough order these days, and we look forward to walking you through what we have accomplished and how we continue to evolve as the world continues to change with the pandemic. Now I'd like to pass it over to my partner in crime at Strategic Objectives, Deborah Weinstein. Deb, over to you.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Susan. I'm very pleased to meet you all virtually. My name is Deborah, and our agency's Strategic Objectives has been proud to partner with Kruger Products for more than 17 years on telling meaningful, brand-building, sales-driving stories for their brands, which include Cashmere bathroom tissue, Scotties facial tissue, and Sponge Towels, paper towels. Our partnership with Kruger began way back in 2004 with the creation of the Cashmere collection It was the world's first ever fashion collection entirely crafted in pure, soft, and luxurious cashmere bathroom tissue. Yes, those gorgeous fashions are actually created in cashmere. We like to call it BT couture. Since then, we've staged 17 annual cashmere collections featuring more than 200 leading Canadian fashion designers, hosted hundreds of mainstream and social media influencers, earned billions of positive media impressions, won more than 100 international awards, and have raised millions of dollars for the breast cancer cause. This year, despite many challenges, we were able to stage our 17th annual collection with an entirely new spin on our traditional event. We'll tell you all about it later, but I'll pass you to Amanda right now.
Thank you, Deb. And hi, everybody. Nice to virtually meet you all. I've been a member of the Strategic Objectives and the Kruger Products team for more than 3 years now. And in this time, I've had the opportunity to work with recognized national brands to tell impactful and meaningful stories with Canada's top influencers, media, and opinion leaders. I lead our Kruger Products team, and I also have experience in the automotive, real estate, beauty, and cosmetic spaces. I never cease to appreciate how our agency, even during the current health crisis, discovers new opportunities when we least expect them. In working with Kruger Products this year, when faced with unprecedented challenges, we bring creativity, perseverance, and the power of strong partnerships together to create programs that make a difference. I'll pass you back to Susan as we jump into our first example.
Thanks, Amanda. I'm sure you guys can imagine, as with many businesses in Canada and the US and globally, the pandemic was really caused us to have a year of pivots. But unique to our business was the media and the public's hyperfixation with our product category. Who knew bathroom tissue, paper towels, and facial tissue and the shortage thereof would become the hottest trending topic of conversation when it came to health, hygiene, and safety? As the pandemic took hold, one thing became very clear at Kruger Products. We had to step up and support Canada's healthcare workers, empower our communities in need, honor our sponsorships, collaborations, and partnerships, and make everyday life more comfortable for Canadians. There's one thing we talk about at Kruger, and it's our 3 C's of the consumer, customer, and our colleague. And we needed to make sure that all 3 were treated fairly, and ensuring that we, held that to the highest regards of making sure that we were making everyday life more comfortable for all of our customers, all of our colleagues, and all of our consumers. So we started on this remarkable journey by quickly creating our largest, most complex, and multi-faceted campaign called Rolling It Forward. This completely new initiative was born from our eagerness to lend a helping hand, and from the mindset that everyone shares an act of kindness, no matter how small. We can make a positive impact in the lives of those affected by the pandemic. Our Kruger team turned to our trusted agency partners, John Street, Wavemaker, T1, and Strategic Objectives, so Devin and Amanda, to help create a multifaceted CSR program to recognize and honor Canada's frontline healthcare heroes, support Canadians in need, and make meaningful brand good news that would inspire fellow citizens and brands to also lend a helping hand. In the first pulse of Rolling It Forward, we partnered with Mercedes-Benz Canada to deliver much needed paper products to frontline healthcare workers at hospitals across the country. Our surprise and delight deliveries reached more than 30,000 hospital workers at 32 hospitals across the country. And our team got to say thank you in the most personal, authentic manner. We also delivered significant product donations to Food Banks Canada, locations from coast to coast, and our Quebec and Ontario mills hosted donation events in their communities. Our first Rolling It Forward initiatives had their own communications, challenges, and sensitivities, and I'll invite Deb to tell you more about that.
Thanks, Susan. As you can imagine, Kruger Products, Canada's largest tissue manufacturer, was in the spotlight as Canadians and people around the world began hoarding bathroom tissue and emptying store shelves. Our communications had to be intentional and sensitive, since we were quite literally giving product away in the midst of a national shortage, although it was being given to those who deserved and needed it most. We also had to ensure that Kruger's sincere efforts were perceived as sincere, generous, and authentic, and expertly navigate what you would call a gray area between selfless CSR and capitalizing on a global pandemic. Our solution was to engage Canada's national, regional, and mainstream media and social influencers in the story and tell thoughtful one-on-one stories to convey brand messages. After a strong debut, Rolling It Forward kept rolling along, doing social good across the country. And in May, there was a huge announcement. Kruger Products donated $200,000 to the COVID-19 Relief Fund, which is a national fund that was set up by 160 hospital foundations to take care of the COVID-19 healthcare workers. Next, to build support for Rolling It Forward, we really went big and capitalized on Canada's love of hockey and Kruger Products sponsorship of the NHL. But I'll pass you over to Amanda to tell you about the big score and for a recap.
Thanks, Deb. Kruger Products was first named the National Hockey League's official Canadian tissue last year. And with the onset of COVID-19, Kruger Products' marketing team immediately saw the opportunity to harness Canadian hockey star power to further its mission to do good. The concept was to partner with 7 NHL All-Stars, 1 player from every Canadian team. They would use social media to encourage Canadians across the country to roll it forward with acts of neighborly kindness, something everybody could use during these last few months. Players went viral sharing their personal acts of neighborly kindness, including Vancouver Canucks' Bo Horvat, who took his neighbor's dog for a walk, and Toronto Maple Leafs' Tyson Barrie, who bought a gift card to support his favorite local restaurant. Players also made donations to Food Banks Canada and encouraged their fans and followers to do the same. Numerous top sports network hosts also joined the Rolling It Forward movement, encouraging acts of neighborly kindness on their primetime broadcasts. Rolling It Forward, supported by PR, integrated ad buys, and social amplification, made good news across Canada and generated more than 90 million positive impressions. Most importantly, it donated more than $550,000, including product and financial donations, to Canadian hospitals, food banks, and essential frontline workers. Despite the focus on sharing, not shopping, which is counterintuitive to every marketer's intents, Kruger Products outperformed in its tissue paper category and nearly doubled its competitor growth during the campaign period, proving that giving back and supporting Canadians has real rewards. Most impressive, this fully integrated campaign came to life in quite literally a matter of days. It was a complete but essential pivot from Kruger Products' original, carefully mapped out 2020 marketing plan. Our next example proves that sometimes you must stay the course, even during a pandemic. When Susan joined Kruger, she committed to refreshing the vision, strategic direction, and performance of all its brands. She had bold, new ideas on how to showcase paper products. However, that strategic vision was challenged. Shooting a new master brand advertising campaign during a pandemic is not an ideal situation, to say the very least. The easy solution would have been to postpone or resurrect previous ads, but Susan led her team in taking a bold yet safe stance. Here's Susan to explain a little bit more.
Thanks, Amanda. As Amanda stated, my goal from the outset with Kruger was to bring humanity, relevance, purpose, emotion to our traditional staid category. What I envisioned was something visceral and real, far different from the images of frolicking cats, dogs, bears, which are commonly associated with our category in terms of strength and softness. The result was our new campaign, master brand campaign, called Unapologetically Human, a new master brand ad that we created with a new agency called Broken Heart Love Affair, featuring cashmere, Purex, sponge towels, Scotties as well. Let's take a look. I think, Shelby, you'll be able to play it.
Yes, I can throw that up there.
Maybe I'm foolish, maybe I'm blind, thinking I can see through this and see what's behind. Got no way to prove it, so maybe I'm lying. But I'm only human after all. I'm only human after all. Don't put your blame on me. Some people got the real problem. Some people out of love. Some people think I can solve them. But your heavens above. I'm only human after all. I'm only human after all. Don't put the blame on me.
Thanks, Shelby. This creative was our first venture into celebrating the messiness paper products are actually designed to address. Unapologetically Human focus on our collective humanity and makes people, not products, the hero. COVID threatened to postpone this creative process, but our team persevered. We adhered to strict health safety and provincial guidelines in producing Unapologetically Human while never compromising on quality. The families you see in the ad are actually real families because that's what the protocols allowed. It was a creative environment like no other, and we were very proud with the finished product. Unapologetically Human has earned glowing national and international media coverage and has prompted meaningful social conversation. It's exceeding advertising benchmarks for overall consumer appeal, relevance, and uniqueness with a staggering 97% positive CRC response rate. Our early Nielsen data shows that our categories are trending up for sales and for Scotties as much as 71%. And now I'll pass it over to Deb to share our third Kruger example, the story of bringing our cashmere collection to life this year.
Thanks, Susan. Remember March 2020? It's when most of us started working from home, sanitizing everything in sight, wearing face masks, and event venues were forced to close. Back then, we were optimistic that the pandemic would subside on time for our 17th annual collection. It was in September. It was 7 months away. But as each day passed, it became evident coronavirus lockdowns were here to stay. By June, we had activated our creativity, courage, and collaboration to reimagine the collection in a safe, socially distanced world. We knew without a doubt the show must go on. The Cashmere Collection is the brand's signature event. It's the annual kickoff to October Breast Cancer Month. It raises essential awareness and funds for the breast cancer cause. The ultimate show of fashion with compassion, it also champions Canada's fashion designers on a global scale. Our 2020 roster of 15 top Canadian designers had been engaged in November 2019. Their creations were well underway. We owed it to the world and to the cause to show their fashion with compassion and their contribution to creativity. Our client and all agency collaboration led to a plan to leverage Kruger's existing partnership with Bell Media and their hit TV show, The Social. We would stage a socially distanced runway show to be broadcast on the Socials Facebook page. This would be the first time we ever revealed the collection to the public, and furthermore, everyone would have a front row virtual seat. The production of our online broadcast took massive collaboration, quick pivots, and a can-do attitude. Our challenges were to drive viewership, gain millions of positive media impressions, conduct a virtual media tour, and honor our collection designers and sponsors, all while raising awareness and funds for the breast cancer cause. Our secret sauce was keeping a positive attitude combined with a constant quest for creative, collaborative solutions. This mentality really paid off. We increased show viewership by 30 times over. And now I'll pass you over to Amanda, who will elaborate on a few additional challenges.
Thank you, Deb. So as if 2020 hadn't presented us with a surplus of challenges already, fate had one last surprise in store. We set each year's Cashmere Collection theme in November of the year prior. Our past themes have included Crystal Ball, Legends of Fashion, and the Four Seasons. In November of 2019, we had decided on this year's theme, which would be Masquerade Ball, a concept innocently rooted in 16th century Venice and characterized by larger-than-life ball gowns and intricate Venetian masks. Yes, face masks. We actually stipulated that each participating designer had to craft a handcrafted BT mask to accompany their gown. They began that production in January and February of this year. Of course, by April, in a remarkable stroke of kismet, masks had taken on an entirely new meaning. Once a symbol of mystery and intrigue intended to conceal identity, masks had newly emerged as a life-saving symbol. Our world-leading collection now had a new hurdle that we had to climb over. We needed to tread lightly with our Masquerade Ball theme to avoid negative associations with the pandemic. Our communications with all stakeholders, including employees, media, and consumers, needed to explain when and why our theme was conceived, in addition to promoting Kruger Products' ongoing support of Canadians impacted by the pandemic. Fast forward to today, we're incredibly proud of the 17th annual event and delighted by the warm reception from audiences across Canada. In fact, we're now sitting at 100,000 votes in our Vote Couture for the Cure initiative, a fundraising follow-up to the runway show where Canadians vote on their favorite creation. This voting tally is up 25% versus a year ago. In addition, we're now tracking at more than 80 million positive media impressions, and our virtual show has more than 11,000 views and counting. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so Shelby can play you a small snippet of that. And following today's presentation, we hope everyone visits the Socials Facebook page to see the entire runway show following our chat.
Welcome to the Cashmere Collection 2020 Masquerade Ball, the world's first and only fashion collection crafted in luxuriously soft cashmere bathroom tissue. So kicking off tonight's event is an elaborate ball gown by four-time Cashmere Collection participant, designer Farley Chatto.
It's a 7 feet wide ballroom skirt. Oh my gosh. Can I just say, how beautiful is that? And it's look at all of that sheer on the sleeves, and of course the bodice and the gathered sort of ballroom skirt.
Okay, so we want to remind every single one of you, you can help raise money now for the Canadian Cancer Society's breast cancer efforts. Simply vote for your favorite bathroom tissue couture creation at cashmerevotecouture.com.
I am so proud of all of these Canadian designers. This is really what Canadian design is about.
With this program, Kruger Products showcased its impressive ability to adapt, react, and pivot when faced with challenges. The 2020 Cashmere Collection pays testament to the brand's resilience, innovative thinking, and commitment to breast cancer. To share our last example, I will pass you back to Susan.
Thanks, Amanda. As we continue to adapt to life in a pandemic, we know that the ramifications will be felt long after a vaccine is discovered. At Kruger, we wanted to find a way to help everyday Canadians cope with the financial impact of the pandemic. And in September, we launched our Kruger Big Assist program with the NHL. This CRS program is near and dear to our hearts as and near to dear in my heart as a hockey mom of two and a volunteer role of being the president of the Leaside Hockey Association, one of Canada's biggest minor hockey associations. Kruger Big Assist is a national program that's going to raise over $150,000 in funding, initiated to design and help minor hockey associations across Canada to cover the cost of registration for hockey families in need and of an off-ice assist. This campaign has already garnered more than 3 million impressions, and we look forward to watching it play out in the months to come. We also already have 30 associations who have registered, just showing that there really is a need for financial support given the pandemic and the importance of mental and physical fitness for children. And this brings us to the end of our Kruger Products Pivots. Through this pandemic presentation, 2020 has really been a year when humanity came into sharp focus. And supporting worthy causes became essential for progressive and purposeful brands. This is with good reason. Recent research shows that a staggering 87% of consumers said they'd purchase a product because a company advocates for an issue that they care about. And in contrast, 75% of consumers said they'd refuse to purchase a product from a company that supports issues counter to their beliefs. For me, the need for businesses to pivot towards humanity is a trending narrative for 2020. As supported by Trend Hunter's Trend Report today, I believe it's a movement that will grow for years to come. At Kruger Products, we're embracing the new abnormal and placing greater value than ever on being empathetic, personal, and human. We hope today's presentation conveys the awesomeness power of combining inspirational leadership, collaboration, teamwork, and a genuine commitment to creativity and social responsibility to accomplish great things. I'm convinced these qualities will help successfully position brands as a role model corporate citizen while building brand equity, loyalty, and sales, even in turbulent times. Over to you, Shelby.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was awesome. It's so great to hear about all the stuff you guys are doing, from toilet paper fashion shows to good old Canadian hockey. Love those examples. So maybe we'll dive into a little bit of Q&A, and then if any of our audience members also have questions, please think of them now, and then afterwards, I'd love to hear your voices to probe Susan or even Deborah and Amanda about some of their experiences during this crazy time that we're in. So I guess, Susan, maybe first and foremost, what was business really like before this new normal, in what Trend Hunter would call the path dependency era?
Yeah, Shelby, great question. I was only at Kruger for 2 months of the regular before the pandemic hit. But if I look at Kruger and any traditional CPG, I would consider the old normal, or where we were at, was CPG growth was really steady Eddie, right? A very steady, developed business is the consumer packaged goods, around the world in terms of that industry. And we all knew that it was moderate growth, right? You could expect moderate growth year after year. And, the trends were the same, right? In terms of retail, the retail shrinking in terms of, only 4 to 5 top players in terms of retail consolidation, the rise of e-commerce, the fact that, baby boomers were older, we had an aging population, not as many kids being born, our population coming in from immigrants coming into our country, the need to market from an ethnic perspective. So, those trends were the same, as well as Canadian consumers not spending as much time at home and actually being a lot more on the go and seeing your away from home business, or food service, if you will, growing. As soon as that pandemic hit, everything changed, right? we went from the top of that Maslow's hierarchy of needs in terms of where consumers were focusing, all the way back down to the bottom in terms of family safety and health being so important. And then just drastically seeing so many changes in terms of consumer behaviors, spending more time at home, right? So away from businesses, food service businesses were dying, more meals cooking at home, spending more time with your family, e-commerce on the rise, purposeful brands being important. Diversity and inclusion was always important, but now, wow, it's at the forefront. So everything just flipped on its head, which to me is really exciting for a marketer. Who wants steady Eddie, right? You want change, because any good crisis is actually a time that you can start to thrive.
And it leaves more room for experimentation. So many brands have been founded during a time, not exactly like this, but in times of uncertainty and times of crisis. So there's definitely opportunity to be had there. I'm curious as to, you talked about some of the challenges you had, Masquerade Ball, oh my gosh, who could have predicted that? But what were some of the biggest changes implemented to Kruger during the onset of the new normal, or what we would call the crisis and chaos phase?
Crisis and chaos is exactly what it was. I don't think I have ever, I've always been a very hard worker, but I don't think I've ever worked as hard as I did during the crisis. Just because no one was ready, right? No one was ready for this. And who knew paper towel and bathroom tissue were going to be the products that consumers went to for safety and health and comfort, if you will. And so if you think about our mandate of making everyday life more comfortable, that was our North Star. Our North Star was, how are we going to make it more comfortable for our consumers? How are we going to make it more comfortable for our retailers? And how are we going to make it more comfortable for our colleagues? We had to ensure our plants were running 24/7. We've got 8 plants across North America. We needed to make sure every line was running. So we had to cut our SKUs, right? So if you think about it, if you've got most consumer packaged goods companies, to drive occasions, you've got more SKUs of the same product, right? Smaller packs, big packs, Costco packs. We had to make sure we were as efficient as possible so that the lines were running 24/7. So that meant certain SKUs we just stopped making for the time being, so that we could make sure that we were pumping out as much product, and also making sure Canadians understood that there was no supply issue, right? There was no supply issue. It was, we needed to catch up with demand as consumers were spending more time at home and getting ready to stay home, more time at home, right? So you saw canned goods, you saw, tissue paper. Those were the categories in terms of that center of the store that Canadians were gravitating to as they were getting ready for a lockdown. So that was the crazy part, was really getting manufacturing locked and loaded. But then also, our CEO was on press tour, right? Canadians wanted to hear from Dino. They wanted to hear what was going on, for the reassurance that we were catching up with demand, which is what he did. And then once we got through that, we also at the same time had to go through all of our marketing programs, work with our media companies. The NHL was shutting down. So, our promotion basically hit the market 2 months before, and then the NHL went into lockdown. So, we canceled NHL media. A lot of our creative Cashmere ad at that point that was on air, the tagline at the end was exclusively available everywhere. Well, you couldn't really air an ad that was saying exclusively available everywhere when we were not available everywhere at that point in the pandemic. So it was really a rush of doing the right thing, as I said, for the 3 C's. And then once we stopped everything and only kept on air what we could, we realized our entire back half was irrelevant. So we needed to, as we were writing our 2021 plans, we needed to write the shift for the back half, which came out rolling it forward in May, Unapologetically Human in August, Cashmere Collection Pivot in September, and now the Kruger Big Assist, because the NHL is not running just yet. So it really was a very, very busy year.
Oh my, yeah, I'd say so. If every month you're launching one of these big campaigns, that's incredible. Kudos to you guys. I know that we've covered so many trends, not just within this session, but throughout the duration of Future Festival Virtual so far. Are there any ones we didn't touch on in this report that, you know, have been incredibly helpful and relevant to Kruger at this time?
I think one of the big ones is trust, right? You know, we said it at the end of the presentation, but I think trust and purposeful positioning is really a guiding light for brands right now that, you know, we really focused on. E-commerce obviously is a big one that you talked about. But I'd say, you know, making sure that you have trust has been a very big one and a guiding light for us.
And how important have you found looking at trends outside of your immediate space? Is Kruger often looking at adjacent industries or even unrelated industries for inspiration?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, one of the trends that I'd mentioned earlier was the shift from away from home to at home, right? We saw that food service and away from home was growing. We have a big away from home company, part of our business, right? So we have our at home brands, which is Cashmere, Purex, Scotties, and Sponge. But then we also service hospitals, hotels, sports facilities with all of our products too, in different brands. So as that business is in severe decline, we're also looking at trends about, you know, what are other companies doing in terms of those packages, right? So I'll give you a good example. Hotels, you know, there was the trend of everyone wanted bigger sizes, not necessarily bigger packs, but you know, your paper towel roll or your bathroom tissue roll. I mean, who hates it? I'm sure everyone does, has been in a situation where you're going to the bathroom and you grab the toilet paper and there's nothing left, right? So everyone was talking about they wanted bigger rolls, bigger rolls, bigger rolls. Well, now one of the trends is hotels actually want smaller packs of everything, individual smaller packs. So those are some of the trends and industries, right? So anyone that sells, be it CPGs or products, you know, we're looking at more kind of individual products because of the health and safety and how they're flipping hotel rooms, if you will. You know, another trend that's happening is, you know, dryers are not sanitary, right? You know, a Dyson dryer or a hand dryer that are in office facilities, right? So Canadians and consumers are now shifting to individual towels, right? So how do you think of innovative electronic ways that towels come up, either through individuals, so they don't have to tear them off, for health and safety? So those are some of the trends that we're seeing. But yes, we look, you know, globally at other tissue companies, but we also look at, you know, technology, CPG, any other type of, you know, cooking facilities, any place where our products are used in different occasions. You know, I was telling you in the last panel, I was on a panel yesterday with the chief marketing officer of Scotiabank. And what was interesting just for us, just having the conversation back and forth, is he's a bank, I'm a tissue company, and the trends he's looking at are the same. And some of his problems are the same, right? Another good one is diversity and inclusion. We can all learn from each other, and everyone might be in a different spot in terms of the journey, but we all have the same destination.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. I think cross-pollination is so important, and some of the most successful case studies we have or clients we've seen been really successful in their innovation journeys have been clients that are wanting to look outside of their specific blinders of what they know already. You know what your competitors are doing, you're studied in your industry, so how are we looking just outside that? And I find it interesting, just like what you were saying, everyone's a technology business now. I don't care what industry you're in. Everyone's an e-commerce brand. I don't care what industry you're in either. There's certain categories that are just, you know, so relevant to everyone that nobody can ignore.
And what's funny too, Shelby, it's like, it's amazing on what is old is new again, right? When you showed that Burger King example, it just reminded me of being a child and going to, I'm going to date myself, but going to A&W with my family and my dad ordering and the lady coming up in roller skates and putting the the tray attached to your car, right? Drive-ins, like all of these different things that we did long time ago. It's amazing, like what is old is new again. So, I'd also encourage people to look at things that we used when we were children, and what are certain things that we should be thinking about bringing back in this new reality that we're in.
I love that. It's on my list to go to a drive-in, as movie theaters are still, I think, pretty much closed, but no, definitely.
But a lot of them are open. Like what was interesting is how TIFF evolved itself, right? Who knew that they could actually get TIFF to go? And what they did was they opened up all the drive-ins in Toronto. It was phenomenal. They were able to still have the TIFF festival, and it was through drive-ins and virtual.
That's incredible. If anybody doesn't know what TIFF is, for the short form, the Toronto International Film Festival, basically every star comes to release their movie there. It's a big to-do in Toronto, takes over the entire city. And I heard about them heading to drive-ins, and I applaud them because I think it strengthened their brand for sure. I guess one final question for me, and then we'll see what the group has. But I want you to put you on the spot and put you in the futurist mindset. But is there one major trend in your industry that you're predicting will be the most important to look out for in the coming months or even years, in what Trend Hunter would regard as the recharting phase?
I think the biggest one is going to be the surge of health and safety. And I think we all, no matter what product or industry you're in, what is your role and duty when it comes to protecting your customer, colleague, and consumer? I thought everyone washed their hands. Not everyone washes their hands. They do now, but it's amazing how something like this has actually caused some good, right? But I don't think health and safety is going to go away at all. And I would challenge everyone in whatever industry you are, what are you going to do differently to help with health and safety for not only your consumer, but your colleague and your customers? And that was something Clinton and I talked about as well, is just the importance of mental and physical well-being. So as much as we're talking about all these innovative things, if you don't look after your colleagues and your team, you're not going to get the great ideas coming out. And it was interesting. We had a town hall a couple of weeks ago, and we had Cassie Campbell, who was a national team, very prominent Canadian hockey player who went to multiple Olympics. She's now a broadcaster. We had Carolyn Cameron, who's a broadcaster as well for hockey and tennis, and Mark Sheffley, who is an NHL player for the Winnipeg Jets. And it was interesting just even listening to these athletes about the importance of taking time for yourself and ensuring that in these days when everyone is alone and is not getting that human touch or human feel, right? Because you can't get that through a Zoom. But it's, what are you going to do as a leader on your business to ensure that you're doing what you need to do for your team? Because if you don't look after yourself first, you can't look after others. So I don't think that's going to go away either.
Yeah, it's definitely getting harder to do that as our work life bleeds into our personal life, and that was already happening, but that's definitely something that's accelerated for sure.
Yeah.
Does anybody from the group have any questions for Susan or the Strategic Objectives team about any of the initiatives, whether it was the Cashmere Collection, how they partnered with the NFL, or anything else? It open for a few secs for anybody if they want to jump in.
Hi, Chantal here. Just a curiosity question. How did you manage with those beautiful bath tissue garments and sanitizing hands and getting it wet, potentially wet on the runway, whilst keeping everybody safe?
Amanda, do you want to take that one?
Yes, I'm happy to. That was certainly no easy challenge. We were very used to having a surplus of hair and makeup artists on set, a full team of dressers, and we typically bring in around 25 student volunteers to support the show. But that really changed for us. And I think our first tactic was working on really a skeleton staff and only the people that we needed. We had hosted several days of fittings prior to make sure we knew which model fit into which dress, and we didn't have people stepping in and out of the same garments. So everything took a long time to be unworn before being worn again. And then we were extra cautious on site. We went through a ton of gloves and of disposable masks to make sure we were never repeat handling, whether it was makeup brushes or hair tools, to make sure that we were abiding by COVID health and safety protocols. And we also have fantastic partners. So Mac, who does our cosmetics, Flo, who does our hair, both have been partners of ours for many years now. We worked with those artists in their spaces to talk about what health and safety guidelines look like as a best practice in their industry, and then doing our best to heighten those wherever we could when we brought it onto our stage. So just a lot of attention to detail and modifications on show day to make sure that everybody felt comfortable.
Wow, it's quite unreal how things change, right? The simple becomes so complicated. But well done. It was really a beautiful event.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
And you should see these dresses in person. They are actually incredible. So they treat the toilet paper so it can kind of hold its form, but it's like a real fashion show. It feels like and it's a coveted position if you're in media here to get into the Cashmere show. So it's always a lot of fun every year.